One Bills live from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indy. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you, and joined now by ESPN NFL Draft analyst, one Todd McShay joining us. Got his latest mock out. Thanks for giving us some time. We know this is a supremely busy week for you, so thanks for carving out a few minutes. Why don't we just start with the mock right off the bat here? Your last one in a series. I know they keep you on it all the time. Hey, give us a new one, Todd. I think it was like February 15th.
Yeah. It feels like a century ago
now. So a couple of weeks in the rearview mirror. But nonetheless, you go cornerback from Clemson, Andrew Booth, for the Bills, which certainly makes a lot of sense because you got Tre'Davious White coming off an ACL, may not be ready at the start of the season. Levi Wallace, a free agent. And Dane Jackson did some nice things in Tre'Davious White's absence for them. But corner is probably a position they're going to have to get on the ball with pretty quickly here.
Yeah, and the good news is if it is corner that they want to go, and it obviously, like in most teams, it's going to be dictated by which players are on the board, but there should be talent there. I mean, everyone's going to talk about Ahmad Sauce Gardner, the corner from Cincinnati, and Derek Stingley from LSU, and then after that, Trent McDuffie, the corner from Washington.
Right.
But then there's still a group of probably 2-3 other guys that are really good players that could be in that range. Booth being one of them, who's long, athletic. He's going to run well here. Played better as his career went on and had, I think, his best game of the last regular season game for Clemson against South Carolina. 2 interceptions in that game all over the field. So he's a really good player. But Kyler Gordon.
That's the guy I like.
My goodness. Wait. The record.
I'm worried he's not going to make it.
The record's
going
to skip when he works out here. It's he's got this interesting background. I want to say it's like jiu-jitsu. Careful saying that name on the radio. And like dancing and all this stuff. And you can see like the flexibility that he has. But he's going to run the 4.3s. He's got good arm length. He's flexible. He's explosive.
So that
Washington's got. There's a chance because
you think so?
I mean, there's 3 other corners that are going to come off the board, but that's the range. I think like 20 to 25, 27. I would say.
Do you anticipate? I know it's impossible to say, but what's your gut tell you about teams who are ready to move around in the first round? Is there a team with enough need, enough draft capital, and a player who could maybe fall to the point where they draft? Is there anybody who's going to make a big move that's maybe?
I wonder. And this is just speculation, but kind of putting the pieces together. If Matt Corral, let's say he's the third quarterback coming out of Ole Miss, if you start to look at it from 21 to 31, there isn't a team that has a quarterback need outside of Tampa, but Tampa drafted a quarterback in the second round last year, Kyle Trask from Florida, and if they're going to bring in new blood, if it's not Tom Brady, who's kind of dancing around and leaving implications everywhere. But if it's not Brady, I think it would be a veteran. So my point is, from 21 to 31, there's no quarterback needy team. And you've got some other teams that are sitting in the second round. Like if the Falcons don't draft a quarterback with that 8th pick, if Denver doesn't draft a quarterback with the 9th pick, could one of those teams then jump back in? Maybe with Buffalo or maybe just ahead of Buffalo to go get a quarterback, which wouldn't obviously affect you all, but actually would affect you positively. You'd rather Malik come off the board because it's not a position you need.
Yeah, and teams also that I look at are like the Giants at 5 and 7.
Yeah.
In a draft where the general consensus from you and others is we're not chock full of elites this year.
No.
So
I don't
they're
see
sitting at 5 and 7. Could they move out of one of those maybe if they don't like what they see?
I think finding a dance partner is going to be really difficult this year.
Okay.
I really do.
Because everybody's going to be looking to move out.
And normally, like Jacksonville, in a typical year, Jacksonville, it would be easy to get out of that one spot. If it's a year from now, with Jacksonville having Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young coming out from Alabama, C.J. Stroud coming out from Ohio State next year, they could get out of that pick easily, and get a ransom for it. But I don't think that's the case. And while you love Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end, and you love the offensive tackles, Ike Ekwonu from NC State and Evan Neal from Alabama, you can live without them. And there are other good players at those positions. So I just don't see a team giving up more picks when really the strength of this draft, in my opinion, is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round.
How deep do they go in some of these premier positions like offensive tackle, defensive end, corner?
Yeah, and wide receiver
and wide
too. And
Wideouts almost become like every year we get a
11 first-rounders the last 2 years, and almost all of them have hit. And then the second-rounders, like, Michael Pittman was I think, like the 33rd or 34th pick a year ago. The first and second round has been outrageous, and the league is getting spoiled again this year with the talent. I think I've got another 6 first-rounders projected to go this year, which would make it, 17 first-rounders in a 3-year span, which is outrageous. So wide receiver is loaded. I think defensive end, we just call it edge, whether it's a defensive end, outside linebacker, is probably the deepest position in this draft, and it might be the best in over a decade in terms of talent.
And then Bills fans are obsessed with the guy that looks like Ted Washington to them. And they look at the times where Tremaine Edmonds gets caught up and he's got to pick between 2 gaps, and if he doesn't pick the right one, it's an 80-yard touchdown, and he has to hesitate because of it. They look at this kid, Jordan Davis from Georgia, and say, well, that kid's going to plug up at least one of them, and that's going to make Tremaine better behind him. And so they're all obsessed with Jordan Davis. But the concern here is 2-down player, and I know you've seen this on tape, Todd. The other teams in the SEC, when they see Jordan Davis on the field, they go tempo and wear him out.
No question, and it's effective. Listen, if you're drafting Jordan Davis, you're going to get 25 to 30 of the best reps you could get, especially versus the run. And in the passing game, he's not going to get a lot of sack production. Maybe he's a 4 or 5 sack guy a year in the league. But he will push the pocket. He will get quarterbacks off the spot. And he will demand double teams at times because there's a lot of centers that just can't hold up against him.
He's just too massive.
He's just too big. So you need a little bit of help there. So I love him when he's fresh. But you can't promise fresh because I know Georgia, I know people in the program, and I know how hard they worked to keep him. They wanted him down around 325, 330. Keeping him under 350 was a year-long, not like a season-long, a year-long task. And it took, people watching him and watching at the training table and all those sorts of things. So it's hard. He's naturally a massive human being. He's a rarity, right? And when he's fresh, though, he can run. That dude can. I mean, I've seen him chase down running backs from behind. And so, you love the physical tools. It's just, how are you going to guarantee me? Marty Schottenheimer once told me, it's impossible to guarantee anything when a human being is about to get more money, more fame, and more free time.
Right.
Those are the 3 things: more money, fame, and free time than they've ever had before.
And that's the risk with big men, maybe more than any other position, because of how quickly they can impact their own personal performance based on the weight that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Because him at 325.
But listen, again, I don't want to tear him down. I love the player when he's on the field, but you just kind of have to value the value of the pick. Is it worth a first-round pick when there's all these other guys? I even think his Devontae Wyatt, his teammate at Georgia, we've talked about him before.
Now, there's off-the-field stuff with him, though, from what I'm hearing. Is that serious stuff or relatively minor from what you've been told?
I think relatively minor from what I've been told. I don't think it's anything that's going to affect playing time, but I can tell you this, that he plays his tail off.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays hard. He's just the most consistent. I think he's the most consistently disruptive defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman in this class.
Is it what makes these guys, when you get these combines and you always hear about, wow, this guy's draft stock really went up and this guy's draft stock really went down? For me, I want to see what you think. The thing that makes their draft stock go way up is the physical testing. Some guy comes in and knocks out a part. The thing,
interviews.
Exactly. Yeah. The one that makes them crash is the interview.
No question. I've heard some crazy stories. Right. Stuff I can't even share, It's not for anyone's ears. I'm not allowed to say it, first of all, and even if I could, I couldn't say it, publicly on the radio. But yeah, I mean, and it's amazing that we're talking about 15-minute interviews. I feel like anyone can fake something. You can fake being normal, but they come in and every team that I know of that I talk to has a psychologist. And this thing's, it's not like, hey, how you doing? What's your family like? Like, they come in and there are different approaches to it, but they know what they're going
interrogation.
After. And they know, and they know the player specifically, and all right, we want to get him ticked off, or we want to touch on a family member, or something to see his reaction.
Almost a trigger question.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned receiver class is loaded. Bills fans are obviously obsessed with maintaining the offense.
Right.
But there's some defensive stuff that has to get fixed, as you addressed in the mock draft for the Bills, corner, defensive line, are probably priorities ahead of receiver. You said it's a loaded receiver class. Are we talking loaded to the point where they can still get a potential starter in a year or two in round 4? Are we talking like a Gabe Davis type that you can get in round 3 or 4, that late in this draft?
Yeah, I think so. Like this guy's Sky Moore from Western Michigan. He's a player.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just he's going to be a third-round pick because we're so. I mean, like I said, there's 6 receivers in the first round that backs up everybody else. And then, but I think Christian Watson from North Dakota State is a 6'3", 205-pounder who's going to run the 4.3s here. They call him the Tampa Tornado, one of the better nicknames. And he just every tape I watch, and I know it's FCS, but he's just like 5 yards behind everyone.
Yeah.
And he had a really good Senior Bowl week. Sky Moore, as I mentioned, David Bell from Purdue's a slot like a jitterbug. Wandale Robinson, Kentucky. So I'm convinced in this receiver class in the 3rd, 4th round there will be starters.
Yeah.
Is there another position group that's not one of these premier positions, like the interior offensive line or maybe safeties?
Yep.
Is there a linebacker who's going to come in and be a difference? Because, we spend all our time. Everybody talks about the wide receivers. They talk about the defensive ends,
the premium
quarterbacks.
Yeah.
All those. When these guys hit, they're all making $20 million a year. What about the other positions that maybe have a guy that's special, but nobody knows about because he plays safety?
Yeah.
Or linebacker.
The top 3 safeties are outstanding.
Yeah.
But after that, it's a real drop-off. Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame is just like he's 6'4", 220 pounds. And
he's going to go top 5, right?
Yeah, easily. Yeah. I've got him as the number 2 player in the whole draft.
Wow.
After that, Jalen Petrie from Baylor he's always like on the corner. He can play corner. He plays that like overhang nickel spot and is blitzing off the edge and don't tell him he's 200 pounds because he plays like he's 230 at times. Just that kind of aggressiveness. Dax Hill from Michigan he's probably going to be a late first. Watch him work out and his fluidity. And he's like a corner that plays safety like he's a linebacker. If that makes sense. He has the athleticism of a corner, the mentality of a linebacker. It's pretty cool to watch him. So those 3 guys are good, but then there's a drop-off after that. I think tight end's a really good position. I know that's not, you guys got Knox and you're in pretty good shape.
Get one some point.
But I mean, it's pretty deep. There's no elite guy. There's never a Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is like a once-in-a-decade type player, but there's not even like a true first-rounder. But then like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, there's a bunch of guys. Like Trey McBride from Colorado State's a really good player. Reminds me a lot of a little shorter version of Dallas Goedert from the Eagles.
Okay.
Weidermeyer from Texas A&M is a big athletic guy. Greg Dulcich from UCLA he might be a 3rd-round pick, but a guy who I think he can't block. I mean, it's almost painful.
Not
to
necessarily
watch,
a prerequisite anymore.
I know. I love the guy. I love.
No
He's
spot for
fast.
that.
He can get down the field, but he just can't block. So you got to kind of work around.
Everybody's
that a little
putting
bit.
extra offensive tackles on the field
he's
now.
He's essentially just a massive slot receiver is what he's going to be. But my point is, if you're looking in that 3rd, 4th round range, there's going to be some tight ends this year.
All right. Todd, listen, we know you got other obligations, so we'll cut you loose here. But great to have you in. Thanks for the time. We appreciate it very much. That's Todd McShay, ESPN NFL Draft Analyst, who will have some more mocks coming your way in the not-too-distant future on ESPN.com.